A deadly and brazen shooting in the middle of a busy Johannesburg suburb. A prominent doctor gunned down at point-blank range.
I did get confirmation, that it was Dr. 𝗀𝗶𝘀 who was unfortunately shot, and he was shot in the back.
It was a crime that struck fear into the hearts of an entire medical community. But more than a year after Dr. Abdullah Munshi was allegedly assassinated, his killers remain at large. Dr. Munshi was coming up to this busy intersection in Orange Grove. He was rear-ended and he got out of his car to try and check the damage. And that's when the assailants appeared. They shot him 6 times in broad daylight on a Wednesday afternoon. Was this a random attack or an assassination carried out by hired guns? If it was an assassination, there may have been some reasons as to why. Among the medical community and on social media, speculation has been rife. One doctor tweeted, Dr. Munshi was shot and killed in what appeared to be revenge for a poor patient outcome, while another suggested the medical fraternity is now coming face to face with the seedy underbelly of the criminal world. Whatever the motive, no one knows for sure just why Dr. Munshi became the target of gun-wielding assailants on a seemingly ordinary afternoon. And the reason no one knows is because there have been no arrests for his murder. Here's what we do know. At the time of his murder, Dr. Munshi was the co-accused in a culpable homicide case with pediatric surgeon Professor Peter Beale, relating to the death of a 10-year-old boy at the Nedcare Park Lane Hospital in October 2019. The tragedy sparked a huge outcry, and both doctors were charged for medical negligence. What we don't know for certain is whether there was a connection between that death and Dr. Munshi's, and that's what continues to make people jittery. Professor Beale went into hiding shortly after and hasn't been seen in public since.
We have asked, and we would like to continue asking, for the police services to investigate his case and to give feedback to the community as to what caused Dr. Munshi's murder.
Natalie Zimmelman is the CEO of the South African Society of Anesthesiologists.
It's not the only time that a healthcare worker has been attacked. And healthcare workers are scared. They're scared because they are vulnerable, and they're scared because they don't know if doing their job will bring them harm.
Zimmelman says the tragedy has also shone a spotlight on the handling of medico-legal issues in the country. At the center of the culpable homicide controversy is the Health Professions Council of South Africa, the HPCSA, the regulatory body that ensures healthcare professionals practice ethically.
Well, we would have liked to have seen the HPCSA act faster, act more effectively, and to have started an inquiry that could give the doctors, the family, the process answers that it was seeking, but instead it went straight to prosecution. And the act of starting that prosecution then suspends any inquiry process that could have happened.
The HPCSA failed to respond to questions we put forward to them regarding the allegations made by SASSA and other medical groups in the handling of the internal investigations. In January 2021, Professor Beale was formally charged with murder and fraud, and the matter is ongoing. All charges against Dr. Munshi have since been dropped.
Who was Dr. Munshi? Speak to anyone who worked closely with him and they're full of praise. But the consequence of his unsolved murder means many of them are not willing to come forward and speak on the record. We tried and tried and tried and were met with a wall of silence.
Worryingly, it's the people who've been tasked with bringing his killers to book whose silence in the story has been most deafening. While the lawlessness speaks for itself, both the South African Police Service and the National Prosecuting Authority have revealed very little information about the status of this high-profile murder. 15 months later, all they've said is that investigations are ongoing. It's only heightened fears as to why justice has yet to prevail for a man described by so many as a gentle giant and a consummate professional. Anaesthetist Dr. Adrian Webb had a relationship with the late Dr. Munshi that spanned 25 years. The pair trained together as specialists in the mid-90s and worked closely together in private practice. Dr. Webb is one of just a handful of former colleagues of Dr. Munshi's who were willing to be interviewed about his death on camera.
So we do everything we can to prevent them from happening, absolutely. I was utterly shocked. I still haven't got over the way that it happened and the unfairness of the whole situation. I was absolutely devastated. He was a major loss to our community, but he was a personal friend too.
According to Dr. Webb, the culpable homicide charge affected Dr. 𝗵𝗀𝗃 both professionally and personally, and those feelings were amplified by the constant media scrutiny.
I'm trying to get a sense of how difficult it must be to put your best foot forward, to want the best outcomes, and when things go wrong, instead of a lesson coming out of the situation, there's this sense of wanting to punish the doctor. That must be difficult.
Extremely difficult. We are not able to function under those circumstances. It would become very, very difficult to actually function when you have punishment as a sort of threat hanging over you all the time.
It appears to be a pre-planned assassination. He got out, they shot him, his cell phone wasn't stolen, his iPad wasn't stolen, his wallet wasn't stolen. Clearly it was a hit. Whatever the motive, we don't want to speculate, and we hope that the police will get to the bottom of it and make sure that the motive comes out.
Some former colleagues have alleged Dr. 𝗵𝗃𝗃 told them he was being followed and even received anonymous death threats in the weeks leading up to his murder. They also say the police ignored his fears until it was too late.
To be a top specialist in medicine takes years of training, dedication, and discipline. These are the best of the best, and they hold themselves and their colleagues to the highest professional standards. And of course, things can go wrong.
It's part of the reason why Durban-based orthopedic surgeon Dr. 𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃 launched a change.org petition in 2020 calling for the charges against Dr. 𝗵𝗃𝗃 and Professor 𝗶𝗶𝗴𝗶 to be dropped. Dr. 𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃 suggests Dr. 𝗵𝗃𝗃's murder has created a climate of trepidation for medical staff.
Because of the rising medical negligence, because of the easiness of the legal community to actually try and sort of litigate. This case just amplifies and catalyzes that. It has already changed the way in which doctors do it. It has already changed our consent forms. It's already changed a lot of the way in which we practice medicine.
Do doctors have enough protection, or do you look at this case and think, gosh, it could be you, it could be doctors you know?
Every doctor feels the exact same way I do. Whether they want to say it out or not, there's a lot of fear. I think everybody lives in fear in South Africa these days based on the type of retribution that's occurring.
First, do no harm. That's the sacred oath that underpins the work that doctors do. But when things go wrong, they can be held criminally liable for mistakes many say leave them traumatized.
Earlier this month, various medical bodies petitioned the Justice Ministry for a review on the law on culpable homicide. In its current form, doctors may be jailed for healthcare-related deaths even though fatalities are sometimes unavoidable. In recent years, dozens of healthcare workers have fallen victim to attacks by patients and others. Some doctors, like John Moche, Michael Aluko, Shongile Ngwashu, and Oupa Chwene, have even lost their lives to murder. While the motives for their killings may be different, none of their deaths were related to medical negligence cases, and unlike Dr. 𝗵𝗃𝗃's case, their killers have all been brought to book.
There are lots of crazy people out there who could have grabbed a weapon and done this. But if people start killing doctors, then you've got an open season. So it's important that this thing is brought to justice to make people think twice. Hi, Karen. Good morning.
For decades, neurosurgeon 𝗶𝗵𝗶𝘀 had worked side by side with Dr. 𝗵𝗃𝗃 on dozens of successful procedures. In March this year, Dr. Miller wrote to Police Minister 𝗶𝗶𝗃𝗃 imploring him to prioritize the murder investigation, but like so many others in this story, was met with silence. He's convinced his friend and colleague's death was a hit.
Well, in the beginning there was the anger. Now there's fear. People are scared to speak up. When they talk about it confidentially. People are very worried and nervous about the situation.
Dr. 𝗵𝗃𝗃's widow and two daughters requested privacy to mourn their loss while they continue to pray for justice.
It's paralyzed our ability to perform efficiently and appropriately in situations where we need to follow our clinical acumen.
As the mystery of this unsolved murder deepens, it's those that took a Hippocratic oath to help others who say they require protection from society to practice medicine courageously, without having to bear the constant weight of a target on their backs.